The following is an exclusive presentation of WI Garden Media, the voice of Garden Talk Radio.
Coming up on the program today, we're going to go over what science says about certain garden practices, as well as, is it worth growing this next year? Our guest is author and landscape designer Linda Vater, and we'll answer your garden questions. The hour is full, so join us.
You are listening to the most informationally packed hour of garden-focused radio in the country and on the internet with your host, husband and wife team Joey and Holly Baird. This is the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
And welcome to another edition of the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show. Thank you for being part of the program, taking time out of your day, whether you're listening to us on one of the 18 AM and FM frequencies broadcasting our program here in 2022, through a radio app, through our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, underneath the Season 6 tab at the top of the page. In-studio video replay or podcast, however you're capturing the program. Thank you very much. I am your host, Joey Baird. Beside me is my wife, co-host, best friend, and gardening partner,
Holly Baird.
This program is for you, about you, to help your garden grow better, to maintain your landscape, grow healthier trees, make your grass look greener, as well as preserving what you grow. If you want to be part of the program, you certainly can do that by sending us an email at gardentalkradio@gmail.com. That's gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Or if you'd like to call us on the Proclamation Hotline, brought to you by Proclamation Goods, you can do that as well by dialing 1-800-927-SHOW, 1-800-927-7469.
Proclamation Goods creates cookware for the eco-conscious home chef. Their pans are non-toxic, have a lifetime warranty, and are made in Wisconsin. Their award-winning stainless steel Proclamation Duo cookware set is a 12-inch skillet that doubles in a stock pot that doubles as a wok. Best of all, the skillet and stock pot hinge together to form a Dutch oven. It's 2 pans with the versatility of 10, empowering you to cook more with less. If you care about your health and strive for a more sustainable lifestyle, visit proclamationgoods.com. The supply is limited, so order yours now at proclamationgoods.com.
All right. There is a number of things in which we do every year in the garden that make sense to us and what we have been taught to do for years. But there's some science that we're going to go over that may or may not prove what you've been doing is adequate.
Right. So the first one is companion planting. And many people think that this is where you plant, basil next to tomatoes because it makes the tomatoes sweeter, or they're going to grow better, or something like that. Another example that seems very scientific based is the Three Sisters method. And it is a good method to use. However, there's this theory that the beans put nitrogen into the soil to help the corn.
Which they kind of do, minutely amounts.
Minutely amounts, but not the amount that you are thinking that the beans are dumping into,
right.
Beans are dumping the nitrogen into the soil. It's not like, it's a negligible amount. It's not some huge amount.
Right. So you got the beans, you got the squash, you got the corn. They all grow together, but they are not doing what is described in some platforms or some books. They can grow together very nicely, but it just doesn't do what you think it's doing.
Absolutely. And that is what you want to keep in mind. Now, there is something called intercropping. And intercropping is where you may grow lettuce or radishes, which are a cooler season, lower growing vegetable next to tomatoes. Or you would start with the lettuce and the radishes, and then you plant your tomatoes. And then once the lettuce and radishes are done, your tomatoes are there. So there's that, but also you could do something like that with cabbage plants and spinach. There's a few different options.
Okay, what are the options we've got there? What can we do in regards to growing that?
So you would just intercrop. So you think about growing smaller vegetables,
or
seasonal,
faster and with the slower,
growing, with the slower, And yeah, so that's basically it. You could also intercrop with squash and guide the squash outside of the bed and then put something in between the rows of squash.
Yeah, the squash, you want to be aware of one thing. Squash, it looks nice when you plant it in your little hill or your little area, but it can take up to 50 square feet in some instances, and even more if you're talking about the pumpkins. 50 square feet in many backyards, that is, and we're butternut, acorn, spaghetti, that consumes most of the real estate in many backyards, 50 square feet, to the point where you can't do anything else.
And we're going to talk about growing squash,
Yeah.
or not to grow squash in the next segment.
Next segment, yeah.
Yeah, but just keep that in mind that this companion planting, there's all these charts, and a lot of these charts contradict each other. Your local university extension may not back this information up, but you might see Becky, the garden blogger, say that you should not grow tomatoes next to basil, and then Bob, the front yard gardener, might say, yeah, you should grow basils next to tomatoes. And it's just you gotta make sure that there is some sort of scientific information. Now, there is something called trap plants.
Yes.
And this is a companion planting concept where you basically have a plant that is going to allow for bugs or whatnot to eat it.
Yeah, you can sacrifice a plant, essentially allowing the plants, or well, we've done this with weeds too.
Yeah.
We've allowed weeds to grow in the garden and lamb's quarter, for example, and the aphids have attacked that and not bothered the other plants nearby. So it's not necessarily a bad thing to leave some weeds in the garden. Obviously, if you leave too many, they will begin to choke out what you are growing. Another thing is...
Trap plants are also known
Yes.
as decoy plants.
Decoy plants, okay.
Yeah.
Whether you purposely plant them or they naturally come up as a volunteer or a weed, they can benefit you.
Right. Now, this doesn't always work successfully if you try to, say, have a trap plant for something like a tomato hornworm. The tomato hornworm doesn't care.
No.
So it's kind of, you kind of have to be smart about it and realistic.
Planting flowers around your vegetables for pollination.
Yeah, this is a good idea. It does bring the bees in when the bees come into your garden. Maybe some of those flowers are taller and the bees come to see them first, and then as the bees are there and pollinating, then they might start they will start pollinating your vegetables.
Can we also make, like, in addition to the pollinator or the flowers, we can do other things to attract pollinators, and they're not just bees. They can be butterflies and moths and praying mantises and
Even
hummingbirds.
some beetles, yeah.
Yeah.
So if you are trying to attract the pollinators, definitely think about the flowers. And then if you are trying to attract things like hummingbirds, they like they call it like the trumpet flowers.
Right, the deep
flowers.
The deep flowers, yeah.
So that's their thing. You can also make a bee bath.
What is a bee bath?
It's where you take a shallow dish. You could use like the bottom of a milk jug, put some rocks, and then put some water in it, just so that the rocks are slightly covered, and then the bees will use it to drink.
Okay, and just water. We don't have to add anything like what I'm referring to is hummingbird feeders. You add a mixture of like sugar water to it, but
no, just water.
Just water for the bees.
Yeah,
and you want those rocks so they can actually drink and then maneuver out of the unit as well.
They need a landing pad.
A landing pad. Okay.
Yeah.
So, anything else we can prove against marigolds? People say, well, and we've heard this dozens of times, I'll plant marigolds around my garden, and that will prevent bunny rabbits from eating my vegetables.
Right, and that's maybe in a perfect world, I don't know what kind of friendly bunnies you have.
And I heard this one time. I never did confirm this, so this is a perfect time to tell everybody what I don't really know. My understanding is there are two different varieties of marigolds. There's a European variety and an American variety, and the European one will actually repel the rabbit. So if you're listening over in the UK, send us an email, gardentalkradio@gmail.com. We know we have listeners over there. Is there viability to this particular claim?
Well, the other thing is that if we don't have access to them in the States, it doesn't really matter.
No,
Right.
but it would just be nice to know that they've got something that we don't in regards to that. Now, we'll get to the conclusion of the bunny rabbits here in a moment, but also people will, to keep deer out of their garden, they will dangle soap or aluminum plates or bowls to make noise.
And this might work and has worked and continues to work for some people, but when a wild animal is hungry enough, especially say you live in a drought, you're having a drought time, or you live in a drought area, or just a high deer population, this might not work. So yes, this might work for some people if you have one deer that's easily spooked and
but they will get accustomed to that noise.
Right, they could get accustomed. And so you got to keep in mind that there's not like a scientific proof that, yeah, deers do startle and scare easy, but...
Have you seen the ones in the city?
Right, exactly.
Your best bet is just to get a bottle of deer defeat and use code RADIO to save 10% on your order. That will deter deer, rabbit, and groundhogs from your... it'll keep them from eating your plants and vegetation. Like you said, Holly, it doesn't matter what you do outside of the deer defeat, soap or a metal pan or whatever. If an animal is hungry enough, they're going to eat whatever is available. Much like, and we've heard these stories in the camping world that, we camp in bear country, but there's not really, if a bear is hungry enough or a fox or a wolf is hungry enough, they're going to come after whatever you've got. Or a raccoon. They're going to come after whatever you've got. It doesn't matter if there is a fence or if there's noise. If they're in a situation where I've got to eat or I'm not going to live, their instinct tells them to take the risk and get what they can in order to survive. Deer, rabbits, groundhogs, a little less life-threatening. But it's the same concept that their instinct is survival and to whatever means it takes to survive and to protect the offspring. So that said, if you are a hunter or a fisher person, and you have the availability and the area in which you can remove these animals and make your own sausage or meat or jerky, Walton's has that all for you. If you're not one of those people and you need seasoning or tools for your kitchen or barbecue, they have that as well.
Yeah, Walton's has everything that you need for canning or for processing.
Doing anything.
Doing anything but the meat. Again, they have the spices. They have, if you want to make some delicious snack sticks, sausage, jerky, they have all that information there for you at meatgistics.com. And then they also have all the supplies you need. Anything from meat grinders, mixers, sausage stuffers to help you go from animal to edible. Walton's is everything but the meat. If you use code GROW50, you can save 10% off of $50 or more. That's waltonsinc.com or meatgistics.com.
Hang out with us when we come back. Is it worth doing that or planting that again next year? You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
It's time to get excited for our fall season. Tree-Ripe delivers the best Oregon pears, Wisconsin Honeycrisp apples, and Florida citrus you'll ever eat, directly from the farm within days of being picked. Their pears and apples can be delivered directly to your home, and you can find their citrus at over 200 orange stops throughout the Midwest. This winter, all the event details and ordering information can be found on their website, tree-ripe.com. And an extra bonus for you listeners, get apples and pears delivered right to your house with 10% off your purchase by using coupon code HOLLY10, Holly10. The discount's only available for home delivery.
Pomona's Universal Pectin is a high-quality pectin that gels reliably with low amounts of any sweetener. If you're trying to reduce the amount of sugar in your diet, you'll love Pomona's Universal Pectin. Now you can make healthy homemade jams and jellies sweetened to your taste. You can use sugar or honey to sweeten. Pomona's Universal Pectin keeps indefinitely when stored in an airtight container. Easy to use, versatile, and comes with directions and recipes in every box. Find out more and where to buy at PomonaPectin.com. Also available at natural food stores and online.
Are you seeing fruit flies in your kitchen? Fruit flies love a fall harvest. They hitch a ride into your house on the fresh veggies and fruits you are picking. Break the breeding cycle with fruit fly traps from Rescue. Rescue fruit fly traps are reusable and an economical way to keep fruit flies at bay. They're the only trap with a no-spill design, and only the Rescue fruit fly traps are made in the USA. Learn more about them at rescue.com. That's resceu.com. Take the guesswork out of composting with hot bin composting. Quickly break down food scraps within 30 to 90 days. Find out more at hotbincomposting.com. Thanks for listening to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. As you've heard through the program, many companies offering coupon codes to help you save on great products. If you've missed any of those coupon codes, you can go to our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, and click on the Money tab at the top of the page, and they're all listed for you. The Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Pro Plugger, Chip Drop, Bellbuster, Johnny Appleseed, Ivy Organic, Milkweed Balm, Walton's Incorporated, Bloomin' Easy Plants, Jung Seeds. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. In a moment or two, we're going to discuss, should you be planting that next year? But first, whether you're having issues with hydration in your plants, for your plants, trees, shrubs, bushes, houseplants, or not, we want to stop the problem before the problem persists, and Tree Diaper has all those devices that will make your watering regimen so much easier.
Tree Diaper is a revolutionary watering system that slowly releases water around the base of any tree or plant as the soil dries. Tree Diaper is filled with water from rain or when you water, and slowly releases water over 3 weeks. No more overwatering or underwatering with the Tree Diaper. Every time it rains, Tree Diaper recharges. No pipes, hoses, or electricity needed. Water your plants and trees whether they're down the road, by the house, in the back 40. Also works under mulch, whether you're a first-time gardener or advanced. Tree Diaper will improve the way you water your plants. Made in the USA. Find all the sizes they have available at treediaper.com. That's treediaper.com.
Treediaper.com is a phenomenal tool that will work for you. Well, Holly, we all plant gardens in different forms or fashions, and sometimes we continue to do the same thing and thinking that, oh, well, it's worth it. But is it really? And I know we've had this, I forget, a couple of shows ago, people wrote in and told I forget what the topic was, Holly, I'm blanking. But we had a topic come in, somebody said people have told him, just quit the gardening and go to the store and buy the produce.
I think that was just a comment.
Yeah.
Right, so the first one we want to talk about is corn.
Corn. Depending on whom you are, corn may be a very big staple in your garden or a complete waste of time because of the energy and the input you have to put in order to get something out.
Right. And so we actually, I don't know, it's probably 4 years ago?
Yeah.
We built up our soil. We just put a ton of nitrogen in the soil. We built it up, and we used our organic nitrogen. And we grew corn. We grew heirloom variety corn very successfully. It was fun to grow. It was delicious. It was...
but a lot of work.
A lot of work. We had to, again, build the soil up quite a bit with nitrogen. I remember we kind of did some nitrogen math or something. And it did take up a whole block of gardening space. And what did we end up with? Probably 8 years of corn?
No, I think we ended up 20 years of corn, but it wasn't, it was a lot of energy put into that.
There was a lot of energy put into that. And and a lot of times you can buy corn at the grocery store, which isn't the same, but
around
at the
here,
farmer's market.
Yeah, it's between 25 and 33 cents right now. I can't grow it for that cheap. Now, if you're growing a whole field, 10 or 15 acres, yeah, that would make more sense to grow your own and then sell it,
We're referring to the backyard.
Yes.
Garden. Yeah. So that's one thing that it's fun to grow. It was cool.
Looked great.
It looked great. It was neat. It was kind of kitschy, I don't know, Instagrammable corn growing. But as far as for us,
it didn't.
For the average backyard gardener, it's probably not something that we would recommend.
No, there is compact corn. There's patio corn where you can grow a couple of ears in a large container on the patio or a small area. But the problem is to do it really well, the tassels, you have to have a big, large block in order for the tassels to drop the pollen on the ears. Each hair, fun fact, each hair on the ear of corn represents a kernel that, if pollinated, the hair will fertilize the kernel and make the kernel come out, and then that's why you have full ears of corn. It's personal preference, but for us, we're not going to do it again anytime soon when it comes to growing corn in our backyard. Now, go ahead.
No, that's just I knew that fact about the hairs and the kernels, but I know not everybody does. So it's cool.
So
fact.
brassicas, cabbage, broccoli, cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, grow them or not grow them?
Well, this is really up to you. But I would mention that a lot of people don't realize this when it comes to many of these, and including Brussels sprouts, is that Brussels sprouts take 100 days.
They take like 7 years, and you have to wait for the right phase of the moon to occur.
But they're cool. They are cool to grow
because people don't know that the sprout grows on the actual stalk,
and we grow them,
right?
And we've had some very successful years where we end up. Last year, what do we have, like a bag of Brussels sprouts?
I think we had 12 pounds of sprouts or something like that, yeah.
So we're not saying you shouldn't grow them. We're just saying that I think a lot of people expect them to grow faster.
Understand how the plant grows. Look at videos. Look how long. Look at the duration. It's worth it, but there's a long duration. It's not a radish. It doesn't take 30 days.
Right. So I think that's the biggest thing is like, does it make sense to grow it? Does it make sense for you to grow it? And that includes Brussels sprouts. There's nothing wrong with cauliflower and broccoli. We just cannot grow it. And so if this is the case for you, then that might be something to think about.
And we're not saying that you shouldn't do any of these. We are saying that these are things in which we don't see a benefit in doing.
Right. Absolutely. So
root crops.
So we're talking anything from potatoes, carrots, beets, turnips, rutabaga, even radishes, but I don't know. Radishes take about 30 days to grow, so why wouldn't you give it,
if you plant it at the right time of the year. Right. That's the thing. Radishes are a cool season crop, so get them in very early in the spring or late in the fall. Or if you're concerned with, I don't know when to plant them, here is a good tip. When the snow is on the ground in February or January, just take your handful of radish seeds and throw them in the garden, and then they will sprout and grow when it's time.
Right. That's a good plan, too. I would probably wait till March. But
but if you just want to experiment with that, I know people do that, and it works very well for them.
So the reason why we're saying maybe not grow potatoes, because potatoes can be obtained pretty cheaply at the store.
Yes. People are concerned with what is sprayed on those potatoes. We have not had the success with potatoes like other people have. And I'm pulling generic numbers here. So, for example, we see people we know people that, have planted one potato plant and it yields 5 pounds of potatoes. We plant one potato for one potato plant and we get 2 small potatoes. Yes, it has something to do with the soil, the nutrients, the soil density, and all of those things. And we've done it every way, upside down, right side up, compost and raised bed mix and in the ground. And we just can't make it happen. Your sister's backyard yields much, much better potatoes in any way that we grow than in the big garden.
Right, and we don't even know why. It doesn't make any sense to us because it's not like they're in two totally different regions. They're very similar soil, very similar growing areas.
What would you say, like a mile and a half if you by air?
About 7 miles apart.
Oh, 7 miles. Okay, we're that far apart. Okay.
Yeah. But still, it's not a huge
same climate, same city, the whole deal.
Yeah. So we don't know why her potatoes have done better than ours. I don't know. We probably will never know.
No. All right. What's the next one that we would suggest that you maybe not try?
Beets.
Beets. Okay.
So there's nothing wrong. You can grow beets very successfully, but
if you know how to grow them.
If you know how to grow them. Also, if you like beets.
Well, yeah. Some people don't like beets.
Don't like beets.
But the proper way to grow a beet. And you can have Chiaga beets, you can have golden beets, you can have white beets, the traditional Detroit red beets. When you plant them, you're planting a seed that is a cluster seed. That's just how nature has developed. And the seeds are they're in the same family as Swiss chard, or I think in the UK they call it chard root or something like that. Beetroot is what they call it.
Yeah, beetroot. I know.
And so as the seed germinates and you get a 2-inch plant growing, you're going to have potentially 3-4 plants in that cluster. So you want to go in with a small scissors and remove all but one. And I know what you're thinking. Well, if I remove all of them, I'm killing plants, and that's more potential. If you don't remove them, you're going to have nothing but greens, because you have to have that one plant to develop one beet root. If you have all 5 or 3 or whatever growing together in a cluster, you're not going to have any beet root, because they're going to compete and quit trying to develop a root and just put top growth on.
Right, and that's exactly how it goes, is that you want to thin them out. You want to make sure they're growing properly like that. Another one I wanted to mention is carrots. And a lot of people get frustrated with carrots because they are kind of slow to germinate. So we have a trick with a board or cardboard.
Yes, we plant our area of carrots, and then we take a cardboard or solid piece of wood, meaning 2x4, 2x8, that is not a piece of plywood or particle board that can emit toxins or the glue. So you cover that area and let it sit there for 24 up to 21 days. That's how long carrots typically take to germinate. But checking it every 7 days, and as you see little white stringy things starting to grow underneath that board, once you see a large establishment of them, then you remove the board, and you're not going to hurt the plant at all. It's going to be white, but in about 3 days, it's going to change colors to green, as it would be if it was growing up under the ground and then exposed to the sunlight. And then that's going to improve your germination by about 80%. Once you plant the seed, water, and then put the board on top of it, the board is holding the moisture into the soil, which is needed to be absorbed by the seed in order for it to germinate. Many gardeners will plant the seeds just like they would beans or anything else, not covering them with a board, just soil. Seeds of carrots are extremely tiny. And by covering them with a light dusting, the moisture dries up very quickly, and the seeds can't germinate because they have no moisture. So try that trick either this fall or next spring, and you will be amazed of the reward that you are going to get by the amount of carrots that are germinating. You still have to thin to make sure you have proper spacing so you have good, deep, diameter carrots. But this will allow you to have the availability to thin out and to get a good harvest.
Right, and then finally, we have huge vine crops. So this includes things like pumpkin, butternut squash, acorn squash. I feel like I'm missing
any of your squashes, and your cucumbers for that matter. Cucumbers can get quite unruly.
Well, you can trellis those,
and people will trellis the squashes, but it's not recommended. It's very difficult to trellis a pumpkin vine that is very thick in diameter, very delicate, and can produce a very heavy fruit on it. So, as we talked about in the first segment, and we'll relay it over here, these plants can take up to 50 to 100 square feet if you allow it. You can train them. You can trim them. You can do a lot of these things. But obviously, the best method is to naturally let them grow.
Right, and this is something to keep in mind. I'm not sure that new gardeners might not realize this, and then they grow squash or pumpkins for the first time, and their yard is quickly taken.
You want to go out in the backyard? We can't. There's stuff going on back there.
So you can guide them around. You can do your little things, but it's just something to keep in mind. If you realistically don't have the space, you're growing on a patio or something. Don't try, and that's okay.
Go buy the pumpkins when it's pumpkin buying time in your area and enjoy them that way. Well, Holly, speaking of that, summer is just about over. Kids are back in school, and Japanese beetles, they're kind of gone, but they're not yet, and you need to take care of your yard in order to make sure they don't come back.
Yeah, just because it's fall, we don't want to forget about our yards and those Japanese beetles either. They may be gone, but they're not far. Not only do they feast on your roses and berries this summer, they laid eggs in your turf, so they can start again next year. You can take a stand with Phylum's Grub Gone. Grub Gone is a non-chemical Bt granular that specifically targets scarab pests and their larvae. Simply apply the granule with a spreader, irrigate into the soil, and let the naturally occurring bacteria do its job.
Not only is Grub Gone easy to use, but the best part about about it, it's the only non-chemical choice that effectively controls grubs. And the best part is it's non-toxic to your pollinators, your bees, your butterflies, your insects, your good insects. In fact, Grub Gone has no label restrictions for around flowering plants. And you don't have to remove any of them or be concerned that the beneficial insects are going to take that up and be toxified by it. You can find all of this out at grubgone.com. You can find this out at beetlegone.com to get your Grub Gone. Beetlegone.com. Use coupon code GardenTalk10 to save 10% off your order at beetlegone.com to get your Grub Gone. Well, hang out with us moments away. Garden designer and author Linda Vater will be with us. You're tuned in to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show.
Have a garden question? Give Joey and Holly a call now or anytime 24/7. Just dial 1-800-927-SHOW. If you can't get through, leave a message and they will call you back. Call now 1-800-927-SHOW.
Do you have nuts or fruit in your yard? A Nut Wizard is a handy, effective tool that will pick up round or oval tree produce quickly and easily, leaving debris behind for a clean harvest. A Nut Wizard tool saves your back and your time. Visit nutwizard.com for more information. Gutter Sense is an easy-to-use rain gutter cleaning tool made of angled tongs that help you safely clean your gutters from the ground. No more ladders needed. Stay safe on the ground. Visit guttersense.com.
This week's garden tip is sponsored by the amazing Dr. Zymes. Eliminate and prevent garden pests with their 100% all-natural, all-in-one insecticide and fungicide. Experience powerful natural protection from insects, fungus, mold, and mildew. Try a free sample. Visit drzymes.com/garden talk. Thrifts are miniature slender insects that can feed in large groups, feeding on onions, beans, carrots, squash, and many other garden vegetables and many flowers. When combating thrifts, the amazing Dr. Zymes is the tool for you. Using 3 days in a row, then once weekly, continue until no sign of pests. This will only affect the bad bugs, not the beneficial good bugs. Dr. Zymes is OMRI listed, saves it to the day of harvest, and doesn't leave a residue. That helpful garden tip was sponsored by the amazing Dr. Zymes. Eliminate and prevent garden pests with their 100% all-natural, all-in-one insecticide and fungicide. Experience powerful natural protection from insects, fungus, mold, and mildew. Try a free sample. Visit drzymes.com/garden talk.
Hey gardeners, it's that time of growing season, so let's start canning. Head over to Fleet Farm for all of your canning supplies and jam mixes. In one easy stop, find everything you need, like jars, lids, canners, strainers, racks, spatulas, and funnels from top brands like Ball and Kerr. Plus, pick up mixes, sugar, and more. When it comes to canning, get everything you need at your canning headquarters, Fleet Farm.
With the right tools, plant maintenance is easy and more effective. Ironwood Tool Company has the right tools for your project. From pruners to loppers to saws and shears and cleanup tools, get the right tool for this season, making your job much easier. Find them all at ironwoodtools.com.
Are you bugged by bugs? You need naturally green products, No More Bugs. Environmentally friendly, made in the USA. No More Bugs is a cedar blend that repels and eliminates mosquitoes, ticks, fleas, roaches, and ants, and more. No Bugs is safe for you, your pets, and plants. Visit natgreenproducts.com. You can enter promo code GREENTHUMB10 for 10% off your purchase of any size of No More Bugs. Protect your plants from damage with the 3-in-1 Plant Guard and Special Blend Fertilizer. Visit ivorganics.com. Use promo code RADIO10 to save 10% off your order.
Thanks for listening to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. As you've heard through the program, many companies offering coupon codes to help you save on great products. If you've missed any of those coupon codes, you can go to our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, and click on the Money tab at the top of the page, and they're all listed for you. The Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Rootmaker, Dripworks, Pomona Universal Pectin, Phylum Bioproducts, Tree Diaper, Chapin Manufacturing Incorporated, Deer Defeat, Water Hoop. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joe and Holly radio show. Moments away, Linda Vater, garden designer and author. But first, Simple Grow is a plant additive in which, or you can grow your plants in it. Simple Grow helps your plants grow better.
Are you worried about your plant growth? Provide your plants with what they need to grow to their potential. Simple Grow offers 100% organic worm castings at simplegrow.com. Unlike any other worm castings, when you order from Simple Grow, you are getting 100% worm castings, not filler plus castings. Promote ideal soil structure and aeration with Simple Grow's 100% odor-free worm castings. There's only one ingredient, worm castings. No chemicals or additives will seep into your food and doesn't smell like other fertilizers. Indoor, outdoor use. You can find all that information and more at simplegrow.com. That's simplegrow.com.
Holly, let's go to the hotline and bring in our guest for this week.
Linda Vater is a self-taught garden designer and stylist who also writes and produces garden media for TVs, Instagram, YouTube, and the web. She's lived and gardened at her English tutor home in Oklahoma City for the past 35 years. Her garden has been featured in numerous national and local magazines. She's also the author of The Elegant and Edible Garden. Welcome to the program, Linda.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Well, thank you for taking time out of your day to educate not only Holly and myself, but all of our listeners across the country. We thank you for the time you're going to give us.
Surely. Happy to do it.
Well, let's start with this. What inspired you to become a garden designer and to design a beautiful garden for yourself? Where was the aha moment that started this whole thing?
Well, I don't think there was really any one moment. I think it was more of a pilgrimage that started with just a general love of plants. I loved, like so many young people today, I really loved plants when I was in high school and in college. And I've often said that my gateway drug to gardening was houseplants. So I think I just first and foremost developed a love from that perspective. And then when I had a career, a profession for quite a while, and when I eventually got married and settled down, I restored a home and started a garden and raised a family. And to me, they just all went hand in hand. And I think that it was just all part of for lack of a better word, kind of just this Martha Stewart life that I kind of wanted to create for myself, one of gracious living and beauty that was garden centric. And I think it just evolved in that way.
Well, that's awesome. So what are some major garden design fails or mistakes people commonly make?
I think they don't take into account something I consider and what I have called in my book, good garden fit. And that is doing an analysis of all of the factors related to gardening that will ensure whether or not you will be successful. So really being familiar with your climate and your zone and your seasons and what works and what doesn't work. And then gardening in the context of a lot of different things. We all know people who have bitten off more than they can chew because they ultimately found out that they didn't have enough time, or they were too busy with their kids, or they physically couldn't handle it. And so I think when you take into account the context in which you garden, then including things like what are my own time constraints and what looks appropriate in my neighborhood? Do I have a city garden? Do I have a country garden? What looks good architecturally with my house? What do I know can be successful here? If you have lots of heavy rain, or like us, you have lots of drought and extreme temperatures and extreme cold. And that's basically taking into account an overarching overview of all of the factors that go into creating a successful garden. And then I would also say it's always good to start small. And then when you get that under your belt, you get yourself a little bit higher on the learning curve, then you do more and you start more and you grow more.
And I think that the biggest enemy, but also the biggest encouragement is TV. Oh, they see it on TV. Well, it can't be that difficult. They did that in, 15 minutes type of thing. And then they realize we've gotten in deeper than what we should have, and we didn't do a research. So TV and YouTube, great instruments to deliver information, but everybody has to help themselves. They have to do the research on the back end as well before they make a dive in the deep end.
No, you're absolutely right, because there's just no substitute for educating yourself. And, I won't put you in the same category as myself, but when I first started to garden, you could not get any kind of information you needed literally at your fingertips.
Right.
With Google or an app or something like that. You had to talk to other people. You had to read books. You had to travel. You really had to do a deep dive into it. Well, now there's just not as great an excuse for not learning what you need to learn and finding out about it as you make mistakes and you try to course correct. And I think that really is instructive and it helps, but there is just no substitute for research, for time, for labor, and most importantly, for patience. You don't create a garden in 15 minutes on TV.
Right.
And you don't have to have deep pockets to do it. And I talk a lot about that in my book. You just have to have a passion, a willingness to learn, and just be motivated to do it yourself.
Well, let's talk about your book. Your book is The Elegant and Edible Garden. What is something our listeners might expect and would look forward to encourage them to pick up a book?
I think it is basically, it talks about the evolution of my own garden and how it might parallel the reader's process as they try to start a garden or expand on a garden, from the very inception of my inspiration and the different kinds of things that inspired me and were muses for what I wanted to do, all the way through the practical process of garden design, of how it would interface with how I lived my life, the orientation of how my home was situated, according to how the sun fell and all of those kinds of things. So it's a good design. It's a good instructional design book, I think, that talks about good garden design principles, whether it's a large or a small garden. It talks a lot about incorporating edibles into an ornamental landscape and how the lines are blurring between the two. And I think maybe one of the most helpful things in the book is at the very beginning, I walk the reader through a whole list of questions that they can answer that will help them realize what their dream garden could be, given their own personality and their own lifestyle and those kinds of things. So I think that's what they can expect, in addition to practical things and plant suggestions and lots of beautiful images. But it's also very much based on storytelling and the story of the evolution of my own garden.
Fantastic. So we are talking with Linda Vater, self-taught garden designer and stylist and author and more. So why should people hire a garden designer versus doing it themselves?
Well, I don't think you have to hire a garden designer. I certainly wasn't when I started out. I'm not formally trained. And I think I kind of became a garden designer over time through trial and error. I think it depends on the degree to which you need their help. So sometimes I think when I was doing consulting, and I don't do a lot of it anymore, what I was able to do is help people see their own vision and maybe prevent them from making a lot of mistakes.
Right.
And take into account things that maybe, not being a garden designer, they would not take into account.
Right.
So you may not want to plant trees there because the utility companies will have them back.
Right.
You may not want to plant that there because then you have to climb over that hedge to get to your barbecue.
Right.
Those kinds of things.
So
I think they help you see your own landscape in a way that maybe you can't see it yet.
Right. And a good garden designer is willing to lose a little money instead of just throwing plants wherever the homeowner wants to get the job done, to build that relationship, to get look at the business side, referrals going, I wanted this, but she or he saved me all this money and explained to me I couldn't do that because of X, Y, and Z. I think you should hire them to do yours type of thing as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. I remember one summer in particular that I was working with a number of different people, and they were getting ready to make a large investment in an outdoor fireplace and all of these things, and it was in the context of a 2.5-year burn ban,
right.
outside burn ban, and so is that really the money that you want to spend when you won't be able to use it, when you wouldn't have been able to have used it for the past 2.5 years? And so I think sometimes we think we want something because it's a lifestyle we envision because we looked at something in a magazine, but the pragmatics of it just don't follow suit.
Definitely. So if a vegetable gardener wants to get more into garden design, are there any tips to get started or simple ways to incorporate easy design concepts?
Well, sure. I think, again, I'd walk you through the list of questions. But I think first and foremost, I would say that vegetable gardening is accessible to everyone, from those that live in an apartment to those who live, on a huge estate. It's just a matter of scale. And first and foremost, you just ask yourself, what do I want to grow? Do I want to grow something just because it's pretty, or am I very intentional in wanting to grow tomatoes because I love them in the summertime, or, herbs because I will use them so much in my cooking. And I think if you look at it that way, that will help you kind of answer some questions. So some people, they just want an assemblage of pots that they've got on their back deck. Some people want a very dedicated space to a vegetable garden with raised beds and everything. Other people are happy to just plant some peppers on the perimeter of an established flower border that they've got. So I think it's again asking yourself those questions of what do I want, and how does what I want fit into the context of my home and my lifestyle.
Well, I'll put you on the spot, Linda. You being in Oklahoma and you designing your own garden, is there one plant that you just love that is just the focal point that you're like, anybody around me, anybody in my area, this is the plant you should put in your on your property?
Well, I don't know that I would say it's what I would tell everybody else to plant, but if you ask anybody about me, if I could have just one plant, what would it be? And for me, it would be boxwood, because I love topiary. I love the way you can create hedges. I love the architecture it provides to the garden, but there's drawbacks to that too. I'm very big on just shrubs in general, on evergreens and lots of blooming shrubs versus a lot of annuals and a lot of perennials. And then the practical things that are just inherently beautiful, like herbs and certain vegetables. So that's probably would be my answer, is to look at things that are tough, blooming shrubs and evergreens.
Well, Linda, we greatly appreciate the time you offered. How can people find out more about you and get a hold of your book?
They can really just Google Linda Vater. They can go to my website, www.lindavater.com, or they can look for me on YouTube just as Linda Vater, or on Instagram, or on Amazon, or a myriad different places. If they just Google my name, they can find me in a number of different areas.
A lot of great information on the YouTube channel, by the way. If people are wanting to learn more about you and see what you do and get a lot of information, that's the place to go as well.
I sure appreciate it.
We thank you for the time, Linda, and the information you've not only shared with Holly and myself, but all of our listeners.
Okay. Thank you, Joey.
Absolutely. And when we come back, it's going to be your garden questions, our garden answers. You are tuned in to the Gardening with Joey and Holly radio show.
Got a question for Joey and Holly? Send it via email anytime to gardentalkradio@gmail.com.
Jung Seed Company is a family-owned and operated gardening company since 1907 with the largest selection of seeds and plants online. Use code 10TG22 to receive 10% off your order at jungseed.com. That code again is 10 STG22.
ShipDrop is a website you can sign up for free wood chip mulch delivery right to your door for free. ShipDrop connects homeowners and gardeners with tree services who are trying to get rid of their wood chips. You can also sign up to get free logs and firewood. Go to chipdrop.com to learn more and sign up for a free account. Rootmaker starts your plants off right and keeps them going through harvest. From their seed starting trays with an innovative design that air prunes the roots to their large variety of grow bags, 1 to 60 gallons. Their products will provide you with the harvest that you've never seen before. Visit rootmaker.com and use coupon code RADIO22 to save 15% off your order. That's rootmaker.com. Brought to you by Blue Ribbon Organics, providing locally made organic compost and soil blends for gardens, farms, landscaping, and more. Visit BlueRibbonOrganics.com or call 262-497-8539 to find their products nearest you. When winter hits with heavy snowfall and frigid temperatures, your outdoor furniture takes a beating. What you need to do is cover it with custom protective covers from coversandall.com. They have a bunch of waterproof, tear, and abrasion-resistant fabrics to choose from, and each cover is made with waterproof stitching. Covers and All has a lot of customization options, incredibly easy design, and order process to make covering any size or shape a snap. Visit coversandall.com and use code GARDEN25 at checkout to save 25% off your purchase. Thanks for listening to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. As you've heard through the program, many companies offering coupon codes to help you save on great products. If you've missed any of those coupon codes, you can go to our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, and click on the Money tab at the top of the page, and they're all listed for you. The Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show is brought to you by the following: Tree Ripe, Covers and All, Ironwood Tool Company, Timber Pro Coatings, Blue Ribbon Organics, Natural Green Products, Algae Men, Dr. Zyme, Happy Leaf LED, Rescue, Big Tool Rack, Hot Bin Composting, Proclamation Goods. Find all sponsors at the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com and thank them for their support. Welcome back to the Gardening with Joy and Holly radio show. Thank you for being with us today. You got a question? We got an answer. It's time for Garden Questions and Answers. If you want to be part of the program here, you can certainly send us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com, gardentalkradio@gmail.com, or you can give us a call on the Proclamation Hotline, brought to you by Proclamation Goods, toll free coast to coast, 1-800-927-SHOW, 1-800-927-7469.
Proclamation Goods creates cookware for the eco-conscious home chef. Their pans are non-toxic, have a lifetime warranty, and are made in Wisconsin. Their award-winning stainless steel Proclamation dual cookware set is a 12-inch skillet and stock pot that doubles as a wok. Best of all, the skillet and stock pot hinge together to form a Dutch oven. It's 2 pans with the versatility of 10, empowering you to cook more with less. If you care about your health and strive for a more sustainable lifestyle, then Proclamation Goods is for you. Supplies order limited, so order yours now at proclamationgoods.com.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
No.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say it's question and answer time.
Question and answer time. This question is sponsored by Fleet Farm and fleetfarm.com. My mom gave me some hollyhock seeds. I put them in my flower garden and some in pots. I would like to try to transplant the ones in the pots into new flower garden beds. Will they transplant and come back in the spring? Or if I do this, when would be the best time to transplant them?
Well,
yes,
you can transplant them in the fall after they're done blooming. Hollyhocks actually prefer to be in the ground or a very deep container. Think like a whiskey barrel type deep container, because they have a large taproot and they will transplant well. And also, there was a comment here that said, thank you for your help in your show. I also wanted to say that I enjoy Holly's stories.
Yeah,
so we got another Holly stories.
The Holly stories. So that's 3 votes for you.
I think it's 4 now.
4 now? Okay.
I don't know.
All right, next question here is, I have, here we go. If my corn cob jelly does not gel up correctly after boiling it, is it a matter of adding more pectin, or do I need to boil it longer? And this can be for any jelly.
Right, yeah. A lot of times, especially just like jelly, where it's usually you're using some sort of juice liquid situation.
Pomona pectin.
You want to use more pectin. You can use pomona pectin.
Low sugar.
They have a low sugar. Or you don't have to use low sugar. You can add all the sugar you want, but it has the low sugar option. But yeah, you definitely want to add more pectin. I think boiling it more would end up turning it back into juice. It reaches a certain point, and then because of the chemical makeup of it, the molecules will just turn back into juice. So a lot of these recipes, I learned this when I took my canning classes through the rec department. A lot of these recipes actually call for less pectin than you probably really need. It doesn't mean you need to add a ton more.
So kind of sometimes a little bit goes longer than what you think.
No, you need more.
You need more pectin in order to make it gel correctly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially the jelly type recipes. If it's something that's fruit based, not necessarily, but the jelly ones, a lot of times need more pectin.
Okay. All right. When is the best time to prune my roses? I have a number of roses and they're getting out of control. So when can I safely do it without damaging them?
Well, the best time to prune roses is late winter or early spring.
Which your mileage may vary in your area. Take a guess on what you think might be the best time there based on the temperatures.
Right. So that's around the time the new growth begins. So this could be anywhere from January, late May, depending on your climate, and it's something that you would have to, I think, just watch in your roses.
Right. And if you have questions about when the proper time is based on your geographical region, you can contact via email or phone your extension office in your county, and they will have yours master gardener in order to properly give you the specific directions for your region, because all regions are not the same. I have powdery mildew on my zucchini plants. They're still producing. What should I do?
Give that zucchini to your neighbors.
No, the powder is not. I know it's a joke, but the powdery mildew is not going to affect the fruit itself.
No, it won't. Fun facts, and yes. I forgot to mention this last month or whatever, but I think it's August 8th is Leave Zucchini on Your Neighbor's Porch Day.
We're way behind that.
We're way behind that, but you know what? It's Christmas in July. You could leave zucchini on your neighbor's porch in September. And
based on everything else going on in the gardening world, everything's late anyway. So you might be actually a lot of people are still getting lots and lots of zucchini out of it.
I had this friend. We're still kind of friends, but we used to be better friends. But anyway, he was apparently nobody likes me, and I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, nobody at work has given me free zucchini. And it was July at the time, and I was like, you got to wait until at least August or September. And then he was inundated with a lot of extra zucchini come, late summer. So, powdery mildew will not affect the plant or the zucchini.
Right. What is it doing? What is that actually doing?
Powdery mildew is just, it's a mildew, and it does block. It does kind of take over blocking the photosynthesis process of the plant. But if your plant is producing, you could spray something like a vinegar water spray on it, or milk. We've done milk
changing
and water.
The pH of that mildew and trying to allow photosynthesis to occur. If it's only on one or two leaves, go ahead and cut those off. Be careful, bag them up while they're above the plant so you're not dropping the spores throughout the garden.
We'll probably see, especially here where we are in Wisconsin,
right?
We've had some really humid, damp days. So the increase, especially as late summer occurs and early fall, if there's a lot of humidity and the humidity doesn't go away at night,
right,
your powdery mildew chances
and
will
we've
increase.
had that heat at night, which is why the tomatoes have not done what they're supposed to do. One more question here. Composting question. Will sunflower seeds sprout in the compost? Do I completely compost the whole plant or just the stalk itself? Thanks. Well, depends on your method of composting.
Well, that depends on how thick that stalk is.
Yeah.
We have one that we had that monster sunflower.
A small tree. Yeah. It was 2 inches in diameter, solid. But if you're going to throw everything in the compost and your compost pile does not heat up, like you don't have a hot bin composter or a composting system where it will achieve 160 or 170 degrees, 140 minimum for a certain duration of time, 72 hours minimum, your seeds are still going to be viable, and you're going to have a mess of sunflower seeds if the birds and the squirrels haven't got a hold of them yet. With that stalk, you want to cut that stalk up as small as possible. However you do that, whether it's a wood chipper, whether it's a lawnmower, whether it's by hand, whatever, that's going to allow the plant to break down quicker in the composting method. Well, with that being said, we are out of time, and we thank you for yours. Miss any portion of the program today or would like to revisit it, you can certainly do that by going to our parent website, the WisconsinVegetableGardener.com, and clicking on the Season 6 tab at the top of the page. Or you can send us an email to gardentalkradio@gmail.com. Tune in next week to the program. We're going to be discussing growing indoors over winter. That segment's going to be sponsored by Happy Leaf LED Grow Lights, one of our favorites, as well as fall lawn care. A few things you got to get done in your lawn before winter hits. And our guest will be treeologist, scientist, and community leader of the Morton Arborary in LaSalle, Illinois, Jessica B. Turner Scott, PhD, will be with us to talk about trees and maintenance of trees, planting trees, maintaining trees, and what trees may be best for your property. So until next week, for
Holly Baird,
I'm Joy Baird, and we will see you in the garden.